So, you own a janitorial business in California and you're starting to think about selling. Well, you are in exactly the right place. In this explainer, we are going to lay out the entire journey for you, creating a really clear step-by-step roadmap. Let's get right into it.
It's a huge question, isn't it? The idea of selling your business can feel, well, pretty overwhelming. You've poured so much into building this thing, but figuring out the path to actually cashing in on that hard work, it can seem incredibly complex. Our goal today is to give you that starting point and guide you all the way to the finish line.
And here's why this is so important, especially right now. The market in California is just fantastic for sellers. I mean, think about it. With this huge new focus on cleanliness and hygiene everywhere, demand for what you do is through the roof. And as a business owner, that demand means two things you really want: a higher price for your business and a lot more people interested in buying it.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with that big question: is it even the right time to sell? Then we'll walk through getting your business prepped, how to price it and market it, how to find the right buyers and negotiate, navigating all those final legal hurdles, and finally, making sure the handover is as smooth as possible. Let's jump into step one.
Okay, first things first, we've got to talk about the why. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of the sale, you have to be really clear on your own motivations. Why are you even considering this right now? Your reason for selling probably falls into one of two big categories: opportunity or pressure. Opportunity is all about seeing these amazing market conditions and thinking, now's the time to cash in. Pressure, on the other hand, might be that feeling of burnout or just getting tired of the intense competition. Whether you're being pulled by a great opportunity or pushed by pressure, getting clear on your why is absolutely the first step.
Once you've decided, okay, let's do this, preparation becomes everything. I mean it. A well-prepared business doesn't just sell faster, it almost always sells for more money. This is where you lay the foundation for a really successful deal.
Think of this checklist as your essential homework. And honestly, it's non-negotiable. Put yourself in a buyer's shoes for a second. They want to see clean, verified financials, they want easy-to-access digital documents, and they definitely don't want any hidden legal surprises. And documenting your processes, that's huge. It shows a buyer they're getting a well-oiled machine that can run smoothly without you, not just a list of clients.
All right, your business is prepped and looking sharp. Now for the two big questions on everyone's mind. How much is it actually worth, and how in the world do you find the right people to tell about it? Let's dive in.
This is the million-dollar question, and sometimes that's literal. Getting the valuation right is such a delicate dance. If you price it too high, you're just going to scare off all the good buyers. But price it too low, and you're leaving your own hard-earned money on the table. So how do the pros actually figure this out?
Well, they use something called valuation multiples. This table here shows the industry standards for businesses just like yours. Basically, your business's value is calculated as a multiple of its earnings or its revenue. You can see a few different methods here: SDE, EBITDA, and REV, which is revenue. For most janitorial businesses your size, that first one, SDE, is the one you really need to understand. So what on earth is SDE? Simply put, it's your net profit plus your own salary, any personal benefits you run through the company, and other one-off expenses. It's the truest picture of the total cash flow that's going to be available to a new owner. And that number, that's what a buyer is really buying. Now, the absolute last thing you want is for your employees, your clients, or your competition to know you're selling before the time is right. This is where a professional business broker is worth their weight in gold. They use strategies like a blind listing, which is basically an anonymous ad that describes the business without giving away its identity, to attract serious buyers while keeping everything completely confidential. Okay, so you've marketed the business quietly, and the inquiries are starting to come in. This next phase is all about sorting the curious people from the serious people, finding that one perfect buyer and negotiating a deal that works for you. Look, not all interest is good interest. A qualified buyer isn't just someone who says they like your business. They're someone who can actually get the deal done. And this chart breaks down exactly what to look for. Do they have the money, or maybe even more importantly, can they get a loan? Do they have any relevant experience? Can they move on your timeline? Answering these questions early will save you a ton of headaches later on. Once you and a buyer agree on the big picture items, you'll usually sign what's called a letter of intent, or an LOI. Think of this less as the final contract and more as a very serious handshake agreement. It's what kicks off that final deep dive phase. And be ready for the timeline. A pretty standard deal can take 3 to 4 months to close from this point, and more complex sales, well, they could take 6 months or even longer.
You've got a signed LOI, now it's time for the lawyers and accountants to really earn their money. This is the due diligence phase. It's where the buyer gets to look under the hood and verify every single thing you've told them. And you get to make sure all that final paperwork is absolutely perfect.
During due diligence, transparency is your best friend. The buyer's team is going to want to see it all. For instance, they'll dig right into your utility records to confirm your operating costs. They're going to scrutinize every single client contract to understand exactly where the revenue comes from, what the terms are, and if there are any hidden problems. At this stage, there should be no surprises.
And remember, we're in California. Compliance is king. You have to have all the right permits and registrations completely in order. This isn't just a good idea, it's the law. A buyer is going to check every single one of these to make sure the business they're about to buy is fully compliant and not at risk of getting shut down or hit with a massive fine.
And if you need any more motivation to get that paperwork right, here you go. This quote is straight from the California Labor Code, and it is a serious wake-up call. Any potential buyer knows these rules. If your business isn't properly registered, its value just plummets because you're basically trying to sell them a huge financial risk. The contracts are signed. The money is in your bank account. Congratulations! But your job isn't quite over yet. A truly successful sale has to include a smooth handover that protects the business you built and sets the new owner up for success right from day one. During this handover period, you're basically managing two very different relationships. For your clients, the message is all about continuity. You need to reassure them that the service and the team they trust aren't going anywhere. But for the new owner, your role is all about transferring knowledge. You're handing over the keys, literally and figuratively, making introductions, and providing training on how everything works. And that brings us to the very end of our roadmap. You've navigated all the complexities, you've closed the deal, and you've ensured a smooth transition for the business you worked so incredibly hard to build. So the only question left is probably the most exciting one of all. What's your next chapter?